with Debbie Altham. Once again, Debbie is the Senior Director of Technology at Sikich, and she's also authored the license requirements section of our guide. So Debbie, there's a lot of resources that Microsoft has made available about licensing Business Central and Finance and Operations. Why is it often so difficult for companies to navigate that on their own?
Yeah, so welcome to the quantum mechanics of ERP. I put in the guide that I recommend everyone have at least an attempt to read the licensing guide. I know that a lot of people will come out and say you shouldn't have suggested that. And the reason is complicated is there's so many permutations that it's really hard to take the one thread that you're interested in and follow it through the guide without getting tripped over. Let's say you use CRM, or let's say you're using Power Platform, or let's say you're coming from a different version, so that's why it's difficult. What I would say, and this is probably the best recommendation, is that lean on partner resources. Most partners out there are okay at working out what your licensing should be. So if you get really, really stuck, I'd have a go, but definitely ask for help. This is not something that I would ever recommend you try and work out entirely without consulting anyone. There are two ways to buy your license, two main ways. Microsoft, you can buy it if you have a volume agreement with Microsoft. You can buy it through an enterprise agreement. There are different sorts of enterprise agreements. The point with buying it through an enterprise agreement, if you're a large organization, is that finance and operations is the only ERP available through that mechanism. And the other thing is that Microsoft is who will help you with your pricing. So again, finance and operations, volume agreement, talk to your Microsoft rep. They're the ones who'll be able to give you pricing. That's not pricing that's on the street. Okay. For all of Business Central and a large proportion of people who are looking at finance and operations, they'll be buying it through another mechanism called CSP, Cloud Service Solution Provider, partners like Sikich. So we have people who will be able to walk you through and work out what your licensing requirements are.
All right. So how does the licensing differ between the two Dynamics 365 solutions?
Okay, so Business Central has two versions, if you like. One of the versions is called Essentials, and it is your finance, your distribution, core modules. It also has a version called Premium. The Premium actually adds on to what you get from the Essentials with service management and manufacturing. So if you're a manufacturer, you'll get the Premium of Business Central. So with finance and operations, you buy it almost in my language, not Microsoft's suites. So you'll buy the finance suite, all the features and functions related to finance and accounts receivable, accounts payable, banking. That chunk is the finance suite, and then you have a supply chain suite. Supply chain suite has got all the manufacturing, it's got all of the service management, similar a little bit to Business Central. And with Business Central, you just pay an additional amount. So for Essentials, $70 per user per month is the street price. For the extended version Premium, it's $100 a user a month. F&O is somewhat different. We have basically you have to buy a base module first. But if you're in the supply chain, you can buy the supply chain base module at the 180 street price, 180 per user per month. You don't also need to buy the finance module. You buy the core module or the base module you need, or suite you need, and then you buy attached licenses for access to other suites as needed. So, for example, if you're using manufacturing and finance, you would be buying the finance at, let's say, the base module at 180, and then the attached module for the supply chain at $30 a user a month. So a little bit different. They both have a license for a team team license, low level functionality access read only. And they both have device user licenses, which means that if you've got multiple people, let's say a warehouse scanner, multiple people using the one device, both systems have got that option. F&O differs in one regard. It has a middle tier license called the activity, and the activity basically is less functions than a full license and more functions than a team, for someone who's going to do a number of transactions but maybe doesn't need full access like what would be required for someone in a managerial role.
Okay, so there's lots of different options there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what types of incentives does Microsoft offer for existing Dynamics customers?
So thankfully, the incentives are programmatic, but I would say that there are two different answers to that. You remember at the start I talked about volume agreements and negotiating your price with Microsoft directly. What I will say is everything I'm going to say from this point forward is not related to someone who's buying off a volume agreement. That is a pricing relationship that you have with Microsoft, and whether or not you get those discounts, different discounts, better discounts, not as good a discounts, is all a matter of negotiation between you and Microsoft. On the cloud, the CSP, where you're buying through a partner, Microsoft have offered what's called it's an update SKU. It's a stock keeping unit. So we call them SKUs. And for anyone who's using GP, Business Central, GP, NAV, SL, or AX, who are wanting to upgrade to BC, to a cloud license, BC or F&O, they're entitled to a trade-in discount, if you like, for the same number of users as they've got already. The one thing to be careful about is with GP, not so much AX, only early versions of AX, and NAV, if you have originally bought your licenses for concurrent users, these days we're only doing named. So do know that you will need to translate from named concurrent users to named users before you work out what your transaction credit's going to be.
Great.